So we should not be muted now.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank
So
you.
once again, I'll say the words that you didn't hear. So good night, everyone. My name is Rui Casais and I'm Funcom CEO here with Stian.
Yep. Good evening to you all. Nice to be back. We have some interesting results to talk about today.
So as usual, we'll go through the slides and feel free to put some questions in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. And without further ado, we will switch to the slides. And I need to click over here. So we're happy to say that we have beaten another record this time. We have the highest rolling EBITDA to date, and Stian will explain that in a second. We have Conan and Conquered launching next week. We have more games in the pipeline than ever before, 7 new games that we are working on, and a total of 15 projects of different types that we spend time and investment and effort actively in. And as mentioned before in last quarter, we have a DUNE partnership for games in that IP, and that partnership is now operational. And we have integrated ZPX, the Lisbon studio we acquired half of some months ago, fully into our operations.
Yeah, so it is exciting times. Should then step straight into the financials.
Yes. Nothing like Conan's face to guide us through the financials. Yeah,
absolutely.
Without doubt.
And this is a nice picture. It shows that we have beaten the comparable quarter, Q1 18, with a large margin. You see revenue are 100 or more than 100% up. 5.8 million in the quarter, which we think is good. The EBITDA is 2.5, also well above last quarter or the Q1 2018. We're profitable, EBIT and profit on 0.1, also strong improvements on those. Cash equity, also significant improvements, and we're still debt free. The key drivers of the quarter has been Conan Exiles and The Mutant. And we're happy that the Steam free weekend was a success. And we're also already looking forward to Q2 performance of Conan Exiles, as there was a second Steam free weekend in after Q1, and also 2 new DLCs and some season packs. So Conan Exiles is still delivering well. And it's also worth noting that the console is really picking up. Console sales has been strong throughout 2018, and we also see it's significantly higher than first quarter in 18. It was picking up towards the end of 18 and still doing well now.
Yeah. It's important to say that we mentioned it before, that this quarter we did not have a new game launching. So Conan Exiles and Mutant were the key drivers. Mutant launching last quarter in December, and Conan Exiles having continued good revenues. And we think that shows that we can really deliver these games to more people over time. And especially Conan Exiles, there's a lot of players coming in and trying the game and liking it and staying, and we're doing our best to continue updating it, and we'll talk a bit more about that. But it's good to see that both Conan Exiles and Mutant are still doing well, and on consoles as well, like Stian mentioned.
Absolutely. And on the next slide, just as we mentioned, that there was no launch this quarter, but still there's a new profitability record, which we like. So this is the highest 12-month rolling EBITDA margin. And as several other companies in the gaming industry, we think the rolling revenue and rolling EBITDA margin is a good KPI, because, as you know, games vary from quarter to quarter and profits vary from quarter to quarter. So we see that as a very encouraging sign that we now broke that record again and got 55% EBITDA margin now, rolling margin.
Now the question is, do you promise that we'll break every record, a record every quarter? I guess that's the thing, a record every quarter. I don't think that will be very easy. But
will be challenging, but we're working very hard, and as we'll also see here, we are investing really heavily into the future. That's what we're most excited about. The coming launches, both one next week, but also the bigger ones in 2020. So we see here that the cash position has been stable the last quarters, despite this heavy investment in the future, which is on a significantly larger level than in 2017 and 16, for instance. So we're investing in the future, and yeah, keep pushing on developing those games.
Yep. So speaking of games, let's talk a bit about what has been happening with our games. Conan Exiles, as Stian mentioned, we had a free weekend. So we did both a quite big update to the game, and we did the first free weekend on Steam. And after the quarter, we, together with the anniversary of the game, did another free weekend. We find it a good way to get people that were a bit on the fence. They didn't know if they wanted to really get into the game or not, to come in, give it a try during a weekend, and if they like it, they buy it. If they don't, maybe they try again in another free weekend. And we see that we get good results. Players enjoy it. We get more people coming in. It brings more people to the community, which the existing players enjoy as well. And we try to time those together with new DLC releases and anything that we can do to raise the attention around the game. There were also other smaller things that we did, such as launching a season pass, because that's a common way right now of engaging as well, and putting out DLC, both the Turan DLC and the Riddle of Steel DLC with Arnold statues. Very important. That's I think they look really good, and I can't wait to see what cool decorations players do to their buildings and their bases with them. Then on Mutant, we did a free update to the game, which is called the Stalker Trials. We added a game mode that allows you to replay the game, compete for score, unlock new items. And if you haven't checked it out, you should, because it adds a completely different layer to the game. That it's strangely competitive. When I was playing it and I saw that the developers, I was playing it before it launched, and I saw that developers had a much bigger score than me. I was like, how are they doing that? And that kept me busy for a while. So that was quite fun. So I think it's a great example of how in a game that is more story focused, you can add some really, really engaging repeatability that adds a lot of value to it. And besides that, we're working on the DLC that is upcoming. That was more details were revealed today in a separate press release, and the Switch version of the game. The game feels like the kind of game that should be on Switch, so we're working towards that, and those will come at the end of July.
And also the Steam ratings have been really impressive. So I think recently it's at 93%, so even more impressive than what's on the screen here with reviews from magazines. Yeah. So it just shows that the players are really enjoying the game.
And we're very happy that with this first game that we published, and we hope that Conan Unconquered will follow in its steps, and all future games will be as well received by players. And the also related to the players, and because there are players watching this stream as well, not just shareholders and investors, we saw that there was a lot of demand from players for a way to play more of the game, and that's what really spurred the idea of the Stalker Trials that then we added to the game. So that's based a lot on player feedback in forums and discussion threads and things like that. Then on to our MMOs, Age of Conan, Anarchy Online, and Secret World Legends. So we've continued to have activities on those games. Age of Conan has had the Saga of Blood ending, and Unconquered mode that has been put in there. And there are a few other things coming up there with like the Onslaught mode. Anarchy Online had the AO 2019 server as launching, which has been very popular. It makes us very happy to see that so many people are enjoying AO and going through the steps that they went through probably 18 years ago. AO has been around for a while, and it makes us very happy to see that players still enjoy and spend time with that game. And Secret World Legends, we've had some events happening as well, and there's been also an anniversary event. In terms of strategy and pipeline, without going into detail on this slide that we've shown in the past, our strategy in broad strokes is having intellectual properties, is having games that we publish, and having games that we develop, and of course publish as well. as a way of having several types of revenue streams, different risk profiles, different investment sizes, but all contributing to a growing baseline of revenues, so that we always have ups and downs, because we are a game company, and some games do better than others, and we have game releases in quarters, but up and down upwards. So an upwards trend with peaks and valleys, and having multiple projects, multiple revenue streams will allow us to do that within the segments we work on. We do premium games, games for gamers, globally, PC, console. That's what we focus on.
So a lot of revenue streams and a lot of launches, and it is growing the pace going forward with all the investments in new games we make.
Yeah, and it takes some time to get this pipeline really there with the numbers of games that we show in the slide. Mutant Year Zero was the first published game to come on, and we have more coming, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the overall plan is what this slide shows.
We also added a comment at the bottom here where the extraordinary general meeting has approved converting Funcom NV to a SE company, Societas Europea. And what that means is a European legal entity, which makes it easier to move the company across borders. And simply put, Funcom being a Dutch company, which it is today, is a historical structure. Maybe it made a lot of sense 20 years ago when the company was founded, but today it's complex, and it drives additional cost without any real benefits, and it just we don't see strong reason for being Dutch.
Yeah. But an SE company basically gives us flexibility. So being an SE company will allow us to then make the best decision of where the head of the group should be located, and that's something that has not been decided yet, but it is the transition to SE is a positive thing to us in terms of our options for the future.
Yeah, it's a natural transition to transition out of Holland, and then time will tell exactly our next steps.
Yeah. In one of the parts of the strategy that I mentioned was IP, intellectual properties. DUNE, that we entered into a partnership with Legendary on a few months ago, adds to a set of IPs we have access to. We have access to IPs in different forms. We have joint operation on Conan, Cole, Solomon Kane, on all Robert E. Howard IPs, and a few other IPs such as Mutant Year Zero, Mutant Chronicles, Cult, etc. DUNE is as mentioned last time, we have a 6-year license to make a minimum of 3 games. We were very excited about the games we're going to be making there. It's one of my favorite sci-fi series of all times. So lots of people are fans here, and it's really exciting to have the opportunity to work with this. And then we have, of course, the fully owned IPs that we've developed over the years, such as Secret World, Anarchy Online, and Longest Journey. And we plan to keep on making games with in those settings, in those worlds, and developing those IPs as well. So we have a reach of IPs that are very, in our opinion, very gamer friendly, that we'll continue to work with for the games we make and publish.
Definitely a lot of energy around those exciting IPs in the building, and yeah, people are super excited about DUNE and the prospects for games there. So,
and Conan is now together with Wolverine in the Savage Avengers comic book from Marvel. So Conan himself is getting more and more in the spotlight again, as he should. So if you haven't seen the Savage Avengers comic book, it's really cool. You should take a look at it. It's really good. And it's Conan and Wolverine fighting, and ending up drinking beer. So it's quite good. And speaking of Conan, we have Conan Unconquered coming out next week. It's the first ever strategy game set in the world of Conan. It's based on the Black Colossus storyline. Actually, in the game, you can see the comics of the comic book pages, fully colored of the Black Colossus and the prequel, in a way, not the prequel, but the setting before. So it's really nice for me as a nerd geek person that likes cool things. Play the game and read the comics in game. Works very well. It's single player and 2-player co-op, so we can play with the friends, and both of you try to defend against the waves and waves of enemies. It's releasing next week on PC, on Steam, and the initial feedback we're getting from Gaming Press is positive. We're eagerly awaiting to see what happens with the game, and very soon people will experience it. I'm having fun, so that's well, I don't know if that's a good sign. It's a sign that I like it.
Same with me. I think it's a great game, and I'm really looking forward to letting the global audience have a go at it.
There haven't been many RTS games lately in the last few years. This game is a survival RTS, so it's not a classic RTS. It's more you stay put and defend, and the objective is to survive, and you need to be clever about how you build and how you manage your resources to really survive. So we hope to see as well the interest around the RTS genre. We're working with Petroglyph, which is a great studio and a veteran of RTSs, and hopefully we can make more cool RTSs going forward. So Conan Unconquered will be our first little step into seeing how the RTS genre and its subgenres like survival RTS are these days. So in terms of pipeline, we talked about Conan Unconquered that's coming next week, but we also have more things. We have Moons of Madness, a horror game, The Martian meets Lovecraft, cosmic horror, cosmic dread type experience, coming out for PC and console for Halloween. We have two other games that are in production as well that we'll talk more about them once marketing feels it's the appropriate timing to reveal them. And we have the three internal games that we've talked about in the past. The multiplayer co-op shooter for PC and console coming out next year based on the IP from Heroic Signatures. The Conan single-player game where finally we're making a game where you can play as Conan and not just a game that is set in the world of Conan. In this game, you are Conan and you are playing through the stories. So that's coming along quite nicely also for next year, PC and console. And then an open world multiplayer game in DUNE. The release date is still TBA. That's a bit further out, also PC console. And the internal games are a big investment. So these games are much in bigger size than the external ones, and they are when you look at the investment chart that was a few slides back, most of those investments are going into these games. And as we said before, there are these 7 new games, and there are 8 existing or prototype or other game project that we spend time and effort and money in right now.
So 15 in total, more games in the pipeline than ever before.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's exciting. Yeah. So as a summary of this presentation, we have 55%, not 52.
Yeah.
That's a mistake.
From?
Yeah, so it's 55%, not 52%. 12-month rolling EBITDA margin, highest to date, in a quarter with no launches. Conan Conquer launching next week. The DUNE partnership is operational, ZPX is integrated, and more games in the pipeline than ever before. So that's what we have. We will go into questions, and questions should be with us on the camera. So we'll take a quick look at the questions that are arriving. There's a question regarding the DUNE IP and partnership with Legendary Entertainment. If that partnership is only for games developed internally by Funcom, or if they can be externally developed. The games can be externally developed as well. So they can be externally developed and then published by us. The next question is more for Stian.
Question on amortization of Conan Exiles. So Conan Exiles is amortized over 2 years, and then the book value you can see in the annual report. We don't publish on a quarterly basis. We don't publish the book values per game. But yeah, so at least it's over 2 years, and we capitalize investments into future game developments, both when they're completely new releases, but also when there's DLCs and expansions and so on. So for Conan Exiles, the book value is reducing, but it's Yeah, it's reducing then quickly over 2 years, and it's added on if we make investments into new DLCs. So it's added on smaller investments.
Yeah. Next question is asking if we'll have any preliminary financials for how the AO 2019 server has performed compared to expectations. We don't really do that type of guidance or analysis on a public basis. It contributes to our baseline revenue, and that's the important thing for us. We consider that it has been doing well.
Yeah, we were definitely happy about the pickup, and at the same time, it's not a surprise that Anarchy Online is not the major revenue driver, so it's not that significant on the total revenue level.
There's a question about if we are more excited about one-time payment from Sony or the increased player base buying DLC on a mid-term basis. Okay, that's specific. We're very excited that millions of people have been able to try Conan Exiles on PlayStation during the month of April, if they were members of PlayStation Plus. We think that has reinvigorated the community, and of course, more players playing means if they like the game, as they seem to be, more DLC sales as they want to make their bases look cool and their armor look cooler. So we think that it's very positive in general, both parts of the question. There's a question about sales breakdown between Conan Exiles and Mutant Year Zero. We don't disclose that information. A question about plans for an expansion to Conan Exiles game world or new map. So we've announced the season pass that will have 4 core DLCs. We have not said anything about more world or map. It's something we evaluate on a regular basis, but there are some constraints. If you add a map to a game, for example, that means that you as a player would have to choose, do I play on map A or map B? And then you're splitting the player base into the different maps. It also means you need more servers, and it's a lot of work to make a new map. So it's maps and DLCs and the multiple ways that we can add more content to the game are discussed frequently. So if we haven't done it and if we haven't said it, it's not because we haven't thought about it, and it doesn't mean that we won't do it. It means that we don't have any plans that we can talk about right now. But it's not as easy as sometimes it might seem like from the outside. When does the next DLC for Conan Exiles release? I actually don't know if we have a date yet. We try to get the dates for DLCs set up when we feel that they are close to the quality level we want. So there will be 4 core DLCs this year. 1 has been released, so in the next 6 months or so, 7 months or left in the year, there will be 3 more. That's what I can say. The questions keep on coming. I'll keep on trying to answer. If Unconquered is RTS, does that mean it will be a Dune 2000 remake? If Unconquered is RTS, I think it's asking if there will be a Dune 2000 remake. Well, I'll ask why are you talking about Dune 2000 or not about Dune 2? I mean, that's the game, really. But we are working with Petroglyph, that were the original developers. Well, some of the developers there were originally making Dune 2 and Command & Conquer. And we're making a game on them on Conan. So are we talking to them about the possibilities? Of course we are. Do we have anything to talk about publicly? Not yet. So I love Dune 2. So, there's something to that.
There's one question whether the single-player Conan is for May next year. And we haven't said anything about specific dates.
Yeah, I don't know where that would come
we just
from.
said next year.
Yeah, next year. Again, we don't set dates. We want the games to be at a quality level that is high enough before we really commit to a date. That's important to us. So we at this point in time don't have a date for that game. We need to get it to much closer to where it needs to be before we're comfortable with the date.
We have, of course, internal plans
and of course.
Timelines,
of course,
and we also want the flexibility to find a good launch window,
which isn't easy, but yes. Are you using Unreal Engine 4 for all of your games? No. For example, Conan Unconquered is not Unreal Engine 4.
But most of them are. Yeah.
And then there's another question regarding PlayStation Plus participation. a lot of people have downloaded the game. It was the first time we've included the game on the PlayStation Plus program. We're very happy with the results, that a lot of people got to try it around the world, and that those people like Conan Exiles, and by liking they are staying, playing, and of course buying DLCs that help us support the game and continue maintaining a team on the project, doing cool stuff, and helping players out when we can. And that seems to be the final question. So if there are any more questions in the future, please reach out to us at investor@funcom.com, and we'll do our best to answer when possible. And other than that, keep having fun, keep playing our games, and see you in 3 months or so when the next presentation is.
Indeed. See you later. Bye-bye.